Also happening here, a major global summit will be held in India next week, but the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, is not sending a high-level team, and several officials say it is for one reason and one reason alone, because the president's daughter, Ivanka Trump, is leading this U.S. delegation. Let's go to Michelle Kaczynski. She's our CNN senior diplomatic correspondent who broke this story. And so, Michelle, your sources are saying, no doubt this is a snub, a major snub to Ivanka Trump.
Yeah, I mean, there have been these obvious and sometimes jarring differences that we've seen between the State Department and the White House. And the question is always, well, have those tensions been smoothed out? How are things going now for Secretary of State Rex Tillerson? But now multiple sources inside the State Department and a source close to the White House say those tensions are still there, and now they're being felt in this trip that first daughter and senior White House advisor Ivanka Trump is about to leave for this weekend for India. This is called the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. It is put on by the State Department, and the theme this year is women entrepreneurs, which she's been heavily involved in. In fact, she was invited on this trip by India's Prime Minister Modi himself. But these sources say that Secretary Tillerson and his inner circle aren't sending anyone senior, and that they've put out this rule that nobody above a deputy assistant secretary level is allowed to go, and that the acting assistant secretary for this region was slated to go on this trip, but Tillerson and his team pulled her off of it. And these sources say the reason is because they don't love the fact that Ivanka Trump is the one headlining this trip and leading the delegation, and that they don't want to bolster this. So when you look at this trip in the past, President Obama has gone multiple times. Secretary Kerry has gone more than once. Last year it was Kerry, an undersecretary of state, 2 assistant secretaries. And this year, I asked a spokesperson for the State Department who exactly is going. And the list hasn't been made public yet. It may not be finalized yet. But they did send me a short list of the top government officials who were supporting Ivanka on this trip, and none of them were in the State Department, except, of course, for the U.S. ambassador, who's already in India. So you could say, well, this is an Obama-era creation. The State Department is trying to cut back on its budget. We all know that. And there's no permanent assistant secretary for the region who's yet been confirmed. But the responses that we get from these sources are, well, okay, if you're going to send a small delegation, then send your highest level person that you can, and then cut back in other ways. And a source close to the White House says, this is Rex Tillerson just not loving this idea and not supporting Ivanka Trump in this. I should add, too, that the State Department won't go on record on this subject, and neither will Ivanka Trump's spokesperson.
We're back now with the politics lead. Is Secretary of State Rex Tillerson snubbing the president's daughter, Ivanka Trump? She is scheduled to attend the Global Entrepreneurship Summit next week in India, but despite her high profile, no high-ranking official from the State Department will travel with her. I want to bring in CNN senior diplomatic correspondent Michelle Kaczynski. Typically, when the U.S. has attended these in the past, they've sent high-ranking delegations. Why isn't Ivanka Trump getting the same treatment?
Right. I mean, it's a big deal generally. It is a large event. But we're hearing now from several sources within the State Department, as well as a source close to the White House, that Rex Tillerson and his inner circle don't want to send senior-level people, even though this is put on by the State Department. And Ivanka Trump, who is, of course, the first daughter and senior White House advisor, she was invited to attend by India's Prime Minister. But the reason these sources are giving is that they don't want to bolster this being her big event, that she's headlining this. This is a quote from a senior State Department official. They, meaning Tillerson and his staff, won't send someone senior because they don't want to bolster Ivanka. It's now another rift between the White House and state at a time when Rex Tillerson doesn't need any more problems with the president. And from a source close to the White House, Rex doesn't like the fact that he's supposed to be our nation's top diplomat, and Jared and now Ivanka have stepped all over Rex Tillerson for a long time. So now he's not sending senior people from the State Department to support the issue. He's not supporting Ivanka Trump. So several of these people see this as a snub. In the past, when you look at this event, President Obama attended more than once. Secretary Kerry did more than once. Last year, there was a huge delegation with an undersecretary and assistant secretaries. But you could say Okay, this is an Obama-era event. It was their creation. This is at a time when the State Department is trying to slash its budget dramatically, and there's no permanent assistant secretary for the region in place. But the response that we're getting back from these sources is, well, if you want to have a small delegation, then send somebody who's high-ranking and cut back in other ways. And the State Department has just now gone on the record saying that they are committed to supporting women's economic empowerment and entrepreneurship, and the summit is a prime opportunity to showcase
It doesn't
that.
help that Tillerson's relationship with the White House has bubbled up into the public, the disagreements. Michelle Kaczynski, thanks very much.